Hello, I'm Stephen Worth, President of Animation Resources, and I'm here with Benny Mercator, one of our volunteers. We're going to do a little experiment here to see if it works with a show and tell with some artwork that I've got to show you that I'm hoping will give you an idea of what it means to be a background layout artist. First, a quick little introduction where I explain what it is we're trying to do here. Animation Resources has a podcasting initiative. The idea is that we want to be able to quickly make videos that are very simple for us to set up and shoot. Right now it's volunteer day on a Sunday at the archive, and we've basically just set up the light, set up the camera, and we're going to show you a stack of incredible artwork here. So hopefully this will work. If it doesn't, we'll try again and show you some more artwork on another day and make it a little bit better next time. Feel free to turn on some music and turn down the sound. This is going to take a while because there's quite a few drawings here, and you don't have to listen to me necessarily. You can just look at the pictures if you want. A good friend of our organization named Ken Leonard was an art director at a studio called Calico Creations, and he worked on two shows in the early 90s. One, Widget the World Watcher, and the other is Mr. Bogus. Now you may not even remember these shows. They were part of the Widget was part of the environmental thing that was going on for a while, like Captain Planet and the Planeteers, and where he was a little character that went around the world and saved the world from environmental disasters. The show is okay. It's a fine 90s show. It's not a classic by any means, but I think you'll be pretty amazed by the quality of the artwork that the artists who worked on this produced. This is a stack of drawings by a fellow named Nestor Redondo. Now, he was a comic book artist. He did a lot of DC horror titles, Silver Age DC horror, and he did Swamp Thing following Bernie Wrightson. When Bernie Wrightson stepped out of the comics, he stepped into Swamp Thing. He was part of a group of artists from the Philippines that had started their own comic book line and publishing house in the Philippines, but the distributor ended up running away and not paying them. So they all came to the US, and maybe 26 of them or something like that, and they all got jobs in the comic book industry at Marvel and DC and all around in the United States. Nestor got a job on this show. It was his first job in animation, and it's clear that he was an amazing background layout artist. So let's get started here. Let's look at some drawings. One thing I want to mention off the bat is that as a layout artist, Redondo was brilliant in his ability to do the research to be able to know what different parts of the world look like. What we're looking at here is Australia. And I'll make you a bet, if any of you are from Australia, that you can point to some of the trees and plants here and know exactly what kind they are. Here's a different sort of a mood. This is, you can even tell the time of day. This is a hike trail at dusk is how it's described. The lighting is coming from one side. It's a little misty. You really feel the atmosphere, and it's not over-rendered. It's very subtle in its rendering technique. Here's another one that is probably Australia as well. I'm just going to start going through them because there's so many here. Now we're in Africa with a dry landscape. This is after global warming, I guess. Forest with huge trees cut down. This is a rainforest in South America. I don't even know the shows. I haven't even seen the shows, but by looking at these layouts, I can tell what's being depicted here. A lot of time people put a lot of details into rocks to make them, all textured and everything. He puts just the amount of texture and focuses on the form. Stand of huge trees in the forest. Again, just brilliant composition. Now we've got trees that appear to have apples in them. This is obviously North America, a totally different type of forest, but he can render that with the same kind of technique, but with a completely different environment and different kinds of vegetation. Here's an example of a key that he would do for the background artists before the show started. He would do little thumbnail keys that would show the background artist areas that they could stage action in, and he would leave little open areas like this where the characters could stand and talk, and areas where they could walk and cross behind overlays and that sort of thing. He's planned it out so that the background painters can or not the background painters, the storyboard artists can stage their action by just cutting in to individual parts of this key. This is what would be called a pre-board drawing. Beautiful, beautiful textures. Look at the organic feel and the way the different kinds of plants move in and out of each other. This appears to be China. We've got bamboo. Old tree on the river. This is South America probably. Notice the palms and stuff. Waterfall leading to pond. Now, one thing I have to mention here is that they did 65 half hours of widgets and 65 half hours of Mr. Bogus, and that was done in about 3 years. So that means that he was averaging 2 to 3 of these layout drawings a day, just to give you an idea about how fast he worked. There's a pine forest with a riverbank. Look how it leads back, how he's got simplified detail in the background and more detail up front in the front to give it a feeling of depth. Beautiful flowing shapes. Notice how he's rendering the mist going through the forest here, and how the trees, you can feel the wind in the trees even though they aren't animating. And again, very simple but beautiful compositions with nice negative spaces and plenty of room for the characters to move around through it. Here's another Australian background. You can tell that's eucalyptus trees. Beautiful clouds too. Look at the clouds in that one. He's giving a lot to the background painters to be able to follow. Aerial view of tropical jungle. He's called out that this is a date palm so that they know exactly what kind of a tree it is over the treetops. And again, look at the depth in the clouds, the way the swirling clouds are carrying your eye and framing the shot and leading you into the distance and then back to the forward and then up the trees again. Great composition. This one's very interesting. If you notice, he's circled a part of this. This is a swamp with trees with their roots going underwater, and he's worked out, apparently because of the action in this particular shot, but he's worked out the underwater roots, and he's indicated that this part of the tree is this part of the roots. It's a mechanical thing or a functional thing for the production of the show, making the shot work, but it works absolutely perfectly. There's another swamp or river. Down shot through the trees. There's another one that's very simple but just absolutely beautiful, and it's nice. He has a very organic feel, and there's never a straight line. Everything is all subtle S curves and opposing curves. There's a nicely framed shot, and you can just picture the characters standing underneath the tree here. Another jungle shot. This is in Borneo, it says. This is the road to the Tiki Uba Grove, so that's probably Africa. Amazon River, now we're in South America. Look how he's called upon to know the vegetation of all over the world in this show. I mean, his encyclopedic knowledge, you could do a botanical book just out of these drawings. Another swamp. Of course, he did swamp things, so swamps were one of his specialties, I guess. Here's an interesting thing. He's got a rope bridge crossing a river, and crocodiles or alligators underneath taking snaps at whoever it is, and a row of ants going up the tree here. Now, he had to figure when he's doing his background layouts, they aren't just layouts of a background, they're actually designed to be a stage for the characters to perform on. So he actually did a mock-up here to show how the character would work with the background. So there is the background, and there's how the characters interact with the background. Hopefully that's not reflecting too much. Not only is he a master of perspective, he's a master of scale. Here he's on the ant's eye view. He's in a bug jungle is what this is described as. So he's going down into the very tiny foliage and turning that into a landscape of its own. There's the ant hole. Now all this has to be rendered and sold as a drawing. Another bug jungle. So you can imagine bugs walking along here, and the scale of the plants and everything makes you understand what it is you're looking at. There's a background copped from a Roadrunner cartoon probably, but again, perspective is very important to maintaining the atmosphere that they're looking for in this show. Here's a pretty amazing drawing. Look at this. This is the Amazon with forest clearing going on, burning the forest to make farmlands in South America. The show was obviously socially conscious, but you can see that this area of the forest has already been cleared with all the trees cut down, but there's still some areas with forest, and the fire is burning, and you can still see the old growth part over here. Tells a whole story in one drawing. And there's the area where the rainforest has been charred and deforested. You can see the smoke still rising. But just beautiful, beautiful composition, beautiful perspective. We're looking up this direction, we're looking out that direction in the same composition, and it all works. Simplified, because probably these had to be animating elements that a character might push through or something. So he's taking his foliage and making it into simple line drawings that could be animation elements. This is an outer space kind of fantasy sort of a place. Polinia, it says, which is a polluted planet. But if you notice, he's designing outer space foliage. He's mixing what he knows about real world trees, and then coming up with this interesting sweeping canopy off this one tree, and you can see more in the distance. And he's created some very unusual looking things, but it all totally looks correct. I mean, he's created an atmosphere that doesn't exist out of taking bits and pieces of actual foliage and putting it together in an interesting way. Here's a night shot. Another thing is that lighting conditions, the background painter or background layout artist has to indicate for the background painter what lighting conditions he's calling for. This is a moonlit night, so we have the moon and we have a light source, and we have an area for the characters to perform in. Perhaps a car comes driving up the road there. We've got a little town off in the distance. Everything you need to know in this scene is encapsulated in a very simple and very clear composition. This is a hologram on a screen of some sort showing a map of forest paths. So what he's done is he's hit a kind of a middle ground between actually rendering a forest and a path going through a forest and having a graphic representation of a map of paths and how they go through the forest, and also given it kind of that digitized look of a simplified graphic hologram, sort of three-dimensional feel as well. He's juggling three different concepts at the same time and making them all work. Another great background of a pile of leaves. A thorn thicket. He's working out depth with things in the close foreground so we can see that there are thorns, and then areas in the back with trees. I hope I didn't hit you when I turned the page that time. This is a cave exit. He's indicated moss growing over it and the depth going down. Transylvanian forest. So he's created something that looks kind of beginning to look kind of ominous in the tree trunks, giving them almost like musculature or something. Now the trees are starting to form into human forms. See the arms and the fingers reaching out to grab. A bubbling swamp. He's indicated how the animation work. He's showing 1, 2, 3, 4 stages of that bubble popping. Now one of the things about these two shows that I have to point out at this point is that Widget was more of a realistic show that had a lot of sort of natural history sort of elements. Bogus was more of a cartoony show. It was more in the line of Roger Rabbit and that sort of thing. So here is a Bogus background of a similar sort of thing, and look how he's made it more cartoony. Exact same subject matter that we just saw in the previous background, but here it's much more cartoony looking and less realistic and botanical, I guess is the word for, or arboreal is the word. So here's another swamp. I don't know if you can read on the 1080p, but when it says W up in the corner, that's a widget. When it says B, that means it's a Bogus. This is Mount Everest in the Himalayas, and we can see down here he's indicated the scale for the characters. So they're coming down this path and overlooking this vista, and maybe we truck out to the mountains as they arrive. Here's an idea again of showing you how the cartoony version and then the more realistic version. This is a Bogus icebergs, you know, the edge of the ice flows from a Bogus cartoon. And here's a similar sort of a thing from a Widget cartoon. This is really a masterful job of design, because this could be painted in just 3 tones and still look very nice. You know, you don't have to do a million shades of color or gray. You can do it in 3 tones if your design is really good. And he's also encapsulated everything there is about ice flows in the Arctic, you know, with jutting up ice and northern lights and icebergs in the distance in the water. You can totally feel the atmosphere that he's trying to get across. Here's another really nice one. This is an aerial shot that's set at an angle, and we're going from close in. You know, the camera's probably diagonal here, and maybe doing a pan like this as it goes across. But we're starting out with trees in the foreground. The trees get smaller and smaller and smaller until they lead into the city in the distance. And the clouds carry us back. The motion, these clouds carry us back into the distance. Everything is pointing towards that city. Great composition. Pencil mileage. He wasn't afraid of just sitting there and drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing. One of the nice things about Nestor Redondo is that it seems that he can draw just about anything and make it beautiful. Here's a water tower at night, and you can see the characters indicated climbing the water tower. He's worked out an interesting angle to make it to give the feeling of height. He's got the moon up there with reflected light. The whole scene, the background painter can look at this and know exactly how to deal with it in color. He's basically an architect. What he's doing is he's designing buildings that don't exist. And he's designing them in just about any style you can possibly want to see them in. One of the things that's interesting is that if you look carefully, his perspective is it all looks right, but there isn't a straight line on any of these buildings. Everything is a little bit of a curve. Nothing is exactly parallel or symmetrical. It all has a kind of organic life to it, and it has a bowed out kind of sense, like a fisheye lens. His horizon line is curved, which means that all of his vanishing points, you know, are different for each placement on the curve. So he's eyeballing this perspective. He's got a basic idea of the perspective, but a lot of the actual lines, he's eyeballing it and creating a sense of distortion while he's doing it. And as we go through these drawings, you'll see more brilliant examples of how he does that. This is a great shot, you know, that is the kind of thing you would have seen in a 1950s movie, a stage of staging a small town like this in middle America. He instantly, and again, he's got the light source worked out. We know what time of day it is. This is probably morning, because the light's coming from that direction, and we've got a few shadows. Suburban neighborhood with a high-rise apartment. We've got construction going on over here. He's got little stories going on everywhere in the background. Over here, you know, a character could walk down the sidewalk or come out of this door and walk this direction and around, or they could come out this door, or they could drive up the street from this direction, or they could you know, come from the construction area over here. There's a million ways that characters could interact with this background. Here's a city street from a Bogus cartoon. So now this one is a little more cartoony. Again, notice the curves and how everything is kind of leaning inwards, like a fisheye lens. The telephone poles, everything are all curved, and they're all giving this feeling of almost like rubberiness. or cartooniness, a flair to everything. He's indicated it the same background now by just doing a Xerox and then doing blue line over the top, or blue shading over the top to indicate light source for a night shot. Now this is pretty astounding. Look at that. Look at the cars. You could probably name what cars these are. He totally understands what he's doing. He's got a poster up here, and the poster is simplified, but it feels graphically well designed. That's one thing that's really important that people tend to kind of cheat over in cartoons is graphics. The graphics should look to the proper degree of detail for where it appears in the background. It shouldn't be over detailed, and it should feel like it's actually a graphic, not someone handwriting something. That is absolutely perfect because it doesn't draw attention to itself, but it does its job within the function. There's one mistake that Ken, the fellow who donated these to Animation Resources, pointed out, is that if he had approved this one, he would have immediately pointed at that spout on the water tower and said two problems with that. One is that it's not in the proper perspective. The other is that a water tower like that doesn't have a spout. That's the kind of spout you put on a train station water tower that fills steam locomotives. But he said it's okay because it adds a little personality. Now, if you're thinking of how are you going to render a crowded freeway, you think of angles where the cars just fill the screen totally. But this actually feels more crowded because you've got the open space around it to set it off. And you've got things in the distance that they're trying to get to or get away from. This is a really nice composition. Everything all is swirling in this direction that makes your eye follow it. Very nice. City freeway with gridlock. Now here's designed an office building. You could have seen buildings like this in the late 60s. That's I mean, you know exactly what time period you're in. You know that you're probably in an urban setting. You know that it's a public building. All of these things he's able to put across with his design without actually appealing to any kind of stereotype of what an office building looks like. I've never seen an office building that had an entrance like that, but I can totally believe that there could be one. So now he's designing, and this is the great thing about an artist like Redondo. He's designing a museum. So he's not just designing backgrounds, he's designing the exhibits. He's designing the layout of the hall and where the various exhibits are. So let me take you through this here. This is the natural history section with the dinosaurs. Obviously he's been to the Natural History Museum in Los Angeles because a lot of this is very similar. This is fascinating because here's a Christopher Columbus exhibit. And there are a few things to look at in this. One is that as we look at Christopher Columbus here, we can see that he's not a person. He's a statue, or a statue essentially of Christopher Columbus. And if you look, there are just little tiny details in the kind of angular things around the arms and the way the folds on the clothing is rendered, and the hat and the shapes on the chair and everything. You can tell this is a dummy. This is not a real person. How he gets that across in his drawing is very subtle but very clear. Another thing to look at, I'll turn it around this way, is the map. He's got Spain and Portugal over here, and then he has sea monsters and dangers, and he doesn't know where he's going to, so it's all of these dangerous things off in the distance, and he's created a little graphic in the corner, and this is Africa, and that's Spain, and there's the Mediterranean Sea, and the bottom of England over there. he's designed the map on the table. He hasn't just designed the background. He hasn't just designed that it's a dummy of Christopher Columbus. He's shown the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, so we know it's that. And we've got rolled up maps, and then we have this map, and he's designed every bit of it to put this idea across. That's going the extra mile, because you could just do a kind of a symbolic thing, and it wouldn't have nearly the interest. So here he's designing an exhibit wall on hieroglyphics, and he's putting the bogus character into the hieroglyphics, which is the Where's Waldo kind of thing. But it has a great feeling. Then he uses that in the background here. So here is that wall. It hooks up exactly with the previous drawing. There's the chariot and the slaves, and it all hooks up. And he's got papyrus symbols and mummy case and artifacts that would be in King Tut's tomb, the statue of the cat and the ox. Obviously, he's done a lot of research so that every one of these items is all something that, and the shapes of the pillars, everything is something that suggests Egypt. Ken said that they had a crew, like about 3 or 4 people, whose sole job it was to do research in advance for them. They would go through National Geographics and books in the Calico Library, and they'd do post-its just showing, they'd go through and find research. So if one show was taking place in Australia, say, next time, they would have a bunch of photographs of Australia to be able to show the artists. That is so important, and not many people do that. They make the artists do all the research. But with Google, we're kind of a little bit ahead of them on that aspect, because you can Google image search just about anything you want. Here again, the thinker, some sort of a modern Picasso sort of thing. He's got Whistler's mother over here. Art and sculpture exhibit, and maybe a little Degas ballerina down there. He knows what he's doing. He's not just shoving in generic art. It is actually really specific kinds of art. Here's another end of the same sort of thing with American Gothic and a Spanish galleon. Now here, he's doing the same thing that he did in that museum, except he's doing it with a school. So your typical suburban 50s school, we start on the school bus. Now this isn't just any school bus. These are those rounded school buses that they used to have in the 50s, which gives it that old-fashioned feel. He's completely worked out. This, rows of benches is not the sort of thing that most background painters want to draw, but he makes it fun. He's put the area where they can put their lunches and their school books up above. He's got the steps going down into the door to get out, where the gear shift and everything for the bus driver. Everything worked out. And here's the school. This could be anywhere. I went to a junior high school that looked exactly like this. There's where you park your bike. Here are the classrooms. There's the entrance, the trees and everything in the sky, the curve feel that gives you the feeling of scale. Another view with the bike rack, and you can see the bulletin boards and where people go in. These little details, when you're out in the world, you should be soaking these things in, because then you're not creating a stereotype version of a school. You're creating a specific school that you've been to and seen. Those details are important. That's what puts it across. Here's a hallway with lockers, and they're going off into infinity here. This is a bogus cartoon. Yeah, this is bogus. So, Class Clown Bogus is the name of this title. So it's a little cartoony the way it's repeating pans or repeating doors with lockers between them and evenly spaced all the way down. Maybe they would have a repeat pan, another part of the show, that where he just keeps walking and it's a cycle. So they did everything symmetrical against that wall so that they could do a cycle and continue it. Functional stuff like that is really important when you're a background layout artist too. Here's a schoolroom. We have a turtle in a terrarium over here. We have bulletin boards. We have the video set up so that they can show educational videos, and the blackboard and the lighting coming in, shining on the blackboard. Very well observed. This is a student desk in the science lab. He's got everything that a science student would need. School with the basketball court in the background again. One thing that Ken pointed out was that he would have immediately said those cars are in the wrong scale for this fence over here. They should be larger. But he said that he often got into arguments with Redondo about that sometimes when Redondo would want to cheat things just for to make it look more appealing and give the visual dominance to the thing that he's pointing at, which in this case is this gate in the basketball court. So he's deliberately played down the cars, and when he explained that, then Ken would let him get away with his cheats. There's a great shot. Look at the observation in that. We've got, baseball bat and shoes and socks. We've got open lockers. We have these fluorescent lights like you see in schools. This architecture of the doorway. Some sort of a place where they put their towels and things when they're done that has a baseball player graphic on it. A little bit of shelving with sports equipment on it. Just that really makes, and the school bell and the fire hydrant, everything, or the fire extinguisher, everything just is absolutely perfect. There's a down shot from a reverse. So we were originally looking through this door. If you notice, the stuff is placed exactly the same. There's the baseball bat, it's the same. There's the shoes. Everything is, maybe it's coming from this direction actually. But everything hooks up properly. We can see inside the lockers, and there's shaving cream or something in there. There's a baseball hat. All these details. This is the equipment room. So we've got baseballs, we've got baseball mitts, we have towels, we have hockey sticks and baseball bats and tennis rackets and balls of all kinds, and racks for them to go on, and going off into infinity here. Now, Bogus was a very small character, so he often had to do upshots like this where you feel like the objects are 80 feet tall because the character is so small, and this is from his perspective. But he draws it perfectly. That the plane of the lights on the ceiling going off into the distance that way is just perfect. Here's the gymnasium. We've got the coach's whistle and stopwatch and clipboard. We have a pump to blow up the ball. We have the basketball hoop. We've got the doors, balls in a rack, the swimming pool, and again, there isn't a straight angle. There's not one straight line in this whole thing. Everything is a curve. The whole thing is made up of curves, and that gives it that kind of extra depth of fisheye feel. And he's keeping elements simple that don't need to be complicated. See, these are basically just boxes with windows on them. That's all you need from this shot because it's in the distance and the focus of attention is down here. Now we're in a supermarket. The shopping carts are stacked up. This again is on the Bogus eye view, so he's down on in the gutter here, and it's obviously at night. We've got an ad up here. The details again are just perfect, and there's the inside of the store. It's got a checkout line with the bags all set, ready for the bag boy, and the shopping baskets, produce, canned goods. He's designed the entire store. Now the same thing in a hospital. Here's a hospital corridor. Here's the inside of the cafeteria, which Ken pointed out to me. This is the lunchroom at Calico. He went, when he was going to do the cafeteria, the waiting room in the hospital, he went into the lunchroom and just drew that. So this is actually where the animators would sit on their lunch break. Here we have a pet shop. Again, all the things, aquariums, birds in cages, food, dog food, pull toys. Here's a makeup counter, a perfume counter at a department store. Oh, man. Look at the beautiful design of that. Toy store. Even the things on the shelves are interesting. You know, little frog, little dog, mouse bear, little football player, train, girl, doll, some sort of policeman. I'm hoping you can see the details in this. Music store now. Piano, amplifiers, electric guitars, tubas, drum sets. You know that it's a music department. This is a cellar full of Coca-Cola. You know, you could be called upon to draw anything, and it isn't necessarily an easy thing to draw. This is not an easy thing to have to figure out how to stage, but he's done it brilliantly. Now he's outside of a movie theater with a Robin Hood movie, and there's the ticket booth and the other posters going off into the distance with light reflections across the glass and kind of an Art Deco sort of a design of the marquee. There's the concession stand at the theater. So he's never designing one thing. He's designing an entire building if he goes to design, because the characters are moving through an environment, and he needs to find the essence of each element within that environment. So this is the concession stand with the popcorn machine and the candy counter and the hot dogs in those heating glass aquarium heating things. I don't even know what you call that. There's the steps going up to the balcony. There's the entrance to the orchestra section. The prices of the sizes of the popcorn. Great observation again. Interior theater with seats. Now that's the sort of thing that no one wants to have to draw, and he's done it beautifully. He's done it not symmetrically, not mechanically. Every one of these seats is a little bit different shape. The way they are when, you know, they've been there for about 10 or 15 years, and you know, kids have jumped up and down on them a little bit. The screen, the proscenium, the lighting, everything, the projection booth, everything is all in the shot. Now he's down on Bogus level, underneath the seats, you know, and Bogus is probably running around eating the popcorn and, you know, that they've dropped on the floor. But look again at the, you know, the just gorgeous rendering on the kids' feet in the Saturday matinee. The projection booth. Now, most people have not even been in a projection booth, but he's called upon to not only know the basics of what a projection booth looks like, but to be able to render a machine that actually functions. You know, you've got the exhaust here. This is a carbon arc projector. The film going in, the lens, the opening into the theater, the rewinds over here, and what is that? That's the power converter that puts the energy into the thing. I don't even know that much about it myself, but I can look at this and know that he knows exactly not only what a projector looks like, but how it works, because this is all functional, you can tell. Now, even if you're drawing something very simple like steps going up to a stage, he's doing it at a degree of detail that suits the animation. So he's got some texture into there. He's shown how the boards have cracks in them. He's showing the texture going off in perspective, the curtains and a little bit of the edge of the stage, so that you can feel what it is that you're going into. Even simple backgrounds like this, he's done very well to get the essence of the idea of what he's trying to do across. Now here's inside of a dog kennel, or a pound. He's made it look industrial and kind of sad, and you can picture the dogs in the cages being very sad. There's a mood to it, almost like a prison. An observatory. Again, he's designing any kind of building you want. He's taken Mount Wilson Observatory and made it Art Deco with big glass walls that they didn't actually have in Mount Wilson Observatory, but there they are in his. And he's given a road that a car can go up, and you can track the car as it goes up to so if the camera is panning like this and reveal. So you don't have to do this all in one shot. It's beautiful as one shot, but it could be a traveling shot as well. Here's a bird exhibit at a zoo. Look at how gorgeous the drawings of those flamingos are. And there's a toucan, and we've got a sign here that shows what, how to tell what kind of bird is. The one at the bottom is a penguin, which I guess there's penguins in here. I don't know why they would have penguins and flamingos in the same thing, but and the foliage again, and the light texture of the screen over the aviary, just absolutely perfect. Everything reads really super clear, and the negative spaces and everything, and the curve on this. Now there probably would have been another one of these, considering the spacing of this. There should have been one right here in perspective, but he's left it off because he wants to keep this little tableau in the corner clear. So he's cheating stuff, but he's doing it for a visual reason. There's the monkey cage. Everybody loves a monkey cage. Look at that gorgeous perspective. Look at that. Upshot curves, no straight lines. We can feel the people inside the window looking out, the door, the textures. That is a really, really nice background layout. Now we're in the living room. Again, this is bogus, so it's a little more cartoony than Widget, the previous one. But we've got an aquarium and chairs and tables and that sort of thing. Now, when you're called upon in a cartoon to design things like a house, you may end up designing parts of that house that you could never see yourself. Like, for instance, here is the inside of the aquarium. If you were a fish, this is what the inside of the aquarium in that living room would look like. So we have perspective going back into a little cave and a little castle, and some rocks and snails, some plants in the water dappling on the surface. And he does it perfect. Now, one of the bread and butter stock backgrounds that everybody who's done background layout has been called upon to do at one point or another is a kitchen. For some reason, kitchens figure very prominently in cartoons. This one is a great one. Usually you see kitchens that are like big open football fields with counters around the sides and tables way far away from the counters, and everything kind of in a straight line. Here he's wrapped it around the table so that and he's got the stove over here. So picture characters inhabiting this. The family is sitting at the chairs. The mom or whoever is doing the cooking is standing here at the stove facing the camera. They're all sitting over here. That immediately gives a really nice layout of how the characters interact with it. Imagine the door being open and a character walking into the door with the mom with her back to the camera, now washing dishes or something, or the father up on a stool, which is over here. See the stool? The stool, so he can get up to the counters or up to the cabinets above and bring things down. everything in here feels like it's livable, and everything is staged in such a way that if you cut in to any parts on this, it would still look good. There's a different kitchen. Again, he's wrapping stuff around rather than making it a flat. A lot of people design background layouts as just flat planes that characters work against, and that makes it feel like a, I don't know, like a stage show, not like something shot in a real location. This feels like a real kitchen. There's the kitchen after it's been trashed, and again, everything tells a story. Broken cups, smashed eggs, tomatoes, broken bottles, melting ice cream, milk bottles turned over, everything, you know, stuff pulled out of the cabinets, knocked over. Everything tells a story here. Now here is a shot of a scene that is going to get reused considerably in this particular show. So he's done an overall shot of it, an overhead, so that you can see the placement of all of the elements in there. So we've got a window with a little dresser over here with a clock on it, and another one over here with some toys on top, and a workbench over her work desk over here, and a dressing table over here, and a trunk, another window, some pictures, an aquarium, and a closet door, and the door going out into the house. Now, every one of the rest of these is laid out exactly. They're tied in knots and all messed up. Windows are cracked. The pole is tied up. This is some sort of weird bogus face over there. This is his planet that he comes from, bogus land. Now they're all passed out and flopped down flat. And look at the trees. They're all, you know, curvy. The poles are curvy. Everything is floppy. This is nice because here we've got two different types of building, modern buildings and an old building, obviously. And the building's about to be demolished. And we feel the highlight and the shadow side, and the shadow side is all decrepit looking, and you know, we can just feel that this building is old but has had a great life, and it's about to be taken down, and it's very sad. Here we have inside of a nightclub. So we had a movie theater before, now it's a nightclub, and see the difference in the way that it's laid out. He understands how a nightclub works. This is a dressing room or bathroom. It's probably a French poodle. There's her picture. A French poodle's bathroom, and she's got a bone with suds on it, and she's got a sponge and poodle wallpaper and a poodle wig and a little dressing table where she can get beautiful. Obviously everything in there is pink, I can tell by looking at it. But then now look, he does a factory, and it's completely understandable how everything works. You know, you walk up there, you walk up here, that overlooks that. You know, there's ramps up here, there's ramps up here, the stairs come up, go into the distance. This is like a production line with things going down on a moving sidewalk or something. Brilliant, brilliant. He can draw anything. Here's a construction site, and he makes it beautiful. Burning oil wells with fires in the distance. Kuwait or something like that. Giant stacks of power plant billowing smoke. The amount of difference, variety of subject matter that he's called upon to draw is just incredible in this show, and he does it effortlessly. Every single one of these is the essence of what it's supposed to be. Here he's got construction machinery, vehicles, and he completely understands how the vehicles work, and he understands how, you know, when they're dumping into something, they go up over a hump and then they pile it down into a hole. There's the contractor's tent, where they have the guy with the blueprints or whatever. Nuclear power plant. Look at the swirling sky around it so that we feel the power. There's nuclear waste. A boat dock. They're unloading. There's an office. Everything that you need to see about a boat dock is all right there. I know I say that a lot in these, but everything here is perfect. It's really carrying the ideas across. Here's an interesting angle on a railroad crossing. So you can get the train, gaining into the shot like that. There's some sort of strange grasshopper frog machines of some sort. He's showing how they can hop. Then he does a detail shot of one. This is all designed out of his head. There's no reference here. He's figuring it out. He's making it work. He's putting it together in a way that it would actually, if a robot frog, if anyone actually made one, this is what it would look like. He's indicating how the jaw opens up. So he's showing how it animates and how the eyeballs pop out. There's two of them together, and what's it say? A conveyor belt of old machines that come out new. So old machines are going in on this side, and they're coming out the other side all refurbished and brand new. So there's a computer and a brand new fridge and a brand new, see, and they're broken down over here. So they're taking old broken down dump items and putting them in, and they come out the other side all fixed. Vehicles. There's Australian trucks. Vehicles. These are posters for motorcycles and jet airlines or something. More posters. A space movie that looks a lot like Star Wars, and rock and roll robot poster where he's kicking a car. The design is great. Now here, you can't see all the details on this, but what he's got here is a machine, and he's describing in at least 18 or 20 different steps how it works. Barrels come in on conveyor from back door. Barrel goes into machines. Lever pulled to the left. Sound effects gurglings. Plunger is pulled up. Effects gurglings, slurpings, boilings. Wheels turn. Cranks, grindings, crunching. Lever is pushed to the right. Squashing. Wheels turn downwards again. Every single part of this machine is all planned out. He knows how it works, so he can show this to the storyboard guys, and they know exactly how a what is it called? It's a Dante purification machine works. So I guess barrels of dangerous waste go in one end, and purified water comes out on the other end. And this is how it works. And you can see it going through each stage here. And every one of you could build this machine and it would actually work. Well, it wouldn't make purified water, but it would move the way he's asking for it to move. Here's a giant battery. And again, this is bogus, so it's a little cartoony. A guard station with the security camera. The main furnace. Look at the lava up above, and the light streaming out, and some sort of magic stuff coming out into hoppers. Here's a pinball machine. Give you a little pan on that. Vending machines. There's little toys inside, and he's designed the toys that are inside. And there's one that looks like Bogus. There's Bogus in there. Skee ball machine. The inside of a piano. See, mechanical stuff is very important too. You have to understand how the mechanics works to be able to draw it. This is inside of a soda machine. So you can see that the coins come in through a slot up here somewhere and slide down into the money part. A lever gets flipped and the cola comes down. You know, you can see how the whole machine works inside. This is the inside of a cassette deck. He's figured out how to, you know, put the little Bogus character inside of a cassette deck. There's the speaker, there's the cassette, there's a kind of a belt drive to run it. These are all the circuits that amplify the sound. Inside of a computer, you know, now we've got a disk. You know, that's what a disk looks like, I guess. But we got memory chips. We got wire strips, we've got, you know, some sort of central processing unit or something, and the inside of a computer, he's imagining what that looks like. This is inside of a TV set, and it's an alleyway. So the idea is that inside the TV set are all these electronic components, and they're treated as if it's a city, that he's walking down a street. Huge old stove, you know, and it's obviously in a cave, and you know how it opens to put the wood in. You put the wood in there, and then you cook up here. There's a preparation table over to the side. The exhaust goes out. Now we're into the same, just with a different angle. So here's our work desk. There's the toys and the dresser and the little end table with the clock on it, and the book on the ground, and the window here, and the window here, and the door going out. Now in the show, I don't know if you can see it up here in the corner, this is a widget, I believe. So, or a Bogus rather. Mr. Bogus lived in the vents of the house. So they were very careful about where they placed vents, because then he would need to know the POV of Widget looking through the vent, what the room would look like. Here's the same background that he's worked out for a night shot with the lights out, with the light coming in from the hallway and the window open. There's the same thing with a table lamp on and the TV on to indicate how the lighting works. There's the work desk with, oh, he left the clock off. We'll have to send that one back for revision. But there's the work desk, and you know, he's got a Mac Classic, which is very early 90s, I guess. Here's a cartoonist's office, and you can see that he, you know, he's got his drawing board and his little computer and tape and paintbrushes and cartoony pictures on the wall, a Xerox machine, little model. And that's probably based on, I would bet that that's probably based on Redondo's own office. Here again, the hookups. I want to show you something here. If you look in the distance here, in the back of there's a broken down bicycle and a tool chest with some tools sitting around, and above that is one of those little things you put screws in with the boxes, or the little drawers that pull out. So there you see it in this shot, and here it is from this angle. There's the tool chest, there's the tools, there's the broken down bicycle, there's the little drawers that you put the screws in. Everything hooks up so that when they cut from one to another, there's no continuity problems. Now here we're inside the the walls with widget, and Ken said that there was a lot of discussion about how that should be lit and what it should look like, how much stuff, dirt or whatever, or chunks of plaster or whatever should be on the ground. They had to strike a balance so that it looked friendly enough for Bogus to live in there, but wasn't so cluttered or wasn't so clean that it didn't look like inside the walls anymore. So he's taking different parts of the house and making them look different. Here he's got a spider web. But again, that perspective is just incredible. Look at that going off into the distance, just perfect. And the brackets that are holding the beams in place, and the electrical conduit going through the walls, and the plumbing, and the air conditioning ducts. There's another one. This is the hammock that Mr. Bogus lives in. And you can see termites have eaten a little bit here with piles of dust and bites taken out of the beam. There's another shot going down between the walls. Here's inside the heating ducts. And again, if the camera is doing this as it's going through, if the camera's following this angle, none of this, it doesn't look nearly this weird, but you're feeling the motion of the turns better, the curves. That's a very sophisticated thing, and I'm sure the camera was being shifted all the way through this in a corkscrew. Another great perspective. Here's the looking down from the roof with the ladder going down, and there's a lawnmower indicated, which was probably a prop. That's why it's just indicated there. There's the yard in the back with an empty swimming pool and lounge chairs. Backyard. Everything indicates ways that the characters can use this. The character can climb the tree. A character can lean out the window. They can sit on the ground and have a picnic lunch if you're a rabbit. There's the same thing in a different sort of angle that's at a low angle, so Bogus himself could be looking up. There's one you don't see a lot. That's the view from inside the doghouse, POV dog, looking out. But that's what your dog's life looks like right there. Here's a house decorated for Halloween. There's cutout paper decorations, there's things hanging, there's the leaves because it's fall. You can tell they have kids. There's a rope swing and they've got a miniature graveyard and pumpkins everywhere. You can even feel that it's fall in the sky. And the interior of the house decorated for Halloween with all the decorations. Hopefully you can still frame on some of these and look at them more closely. I'm making sure that I get one clear shot of each one so that you can still frame on them. Here he's saying matched animation because there's this obviously registers to something with the animation. They're reaching in and getting popcorn out of it or something. Again, beautiful design. Look at how they've taken a normal living room and decorated it like that. And it doesn't feel pasted on. It feels like it's part of the composition, part of the background. Now here's something interesting. Here we have a Bogus, a kind of a cartoony version of a farm. See the fun curve to the back of the barn, and we've got a plowed field out here with a tractor, and obviously they're milking a cow because there's a milk bucket and a thing, and then the cow would be here and the farmer would be sitting right there. And and a pitchfork with hay, and a farmhouse, and a wind, what do you call it? One of those wind turbine things. There's a completely different look at a barn. This is now a widget, and it's a dilapidated barn. And look at the atmosphere to that. I mean, it's not all rendered out. You can't even see the bottom of the doors there. It goes into mist. Sometimes it's what you don't draw that counts, not what you do. You know, parts of it are in focus and parts aren't. That's a beautiful, beautiful layout. Here's the interior of the barn. Holy cow, look at that. Look at the lighting. Look at the, you know, that we're seeing some sort of machinery over here, and we're seeing hay over here, and the hay loft. That is a barn, you know how it works. This is the interior of a log cabin. Again, a bogus, so it's a little more cartoony than those previous widget ones. And then we go into Bogus Land, which was kind of like Roger Rabbit's Toontown, which was very popular back at the time this was being made. I guess this is, what, 93, the date on some of these. So, so this is like 1993 style. But look at the really nice roundy feel to it. It feels kind of balloony and friendly and almost like a toy. The lines don't exactly line up. You know, your lines are a little wonky, but they aren't so wonky that it doesn't feel like one unit. The overall feel of the shape of it still works. A lot of times people will do wonky for wonky sakes, where every angle is going the wrong way, and it doesn't feel unified when they do that. Here, it's got some wonkiness to it, but just enough to keep it alive and make it feel organic rather than feeling mechanical. Now this is full-on Roger Rabbit Toontown stuff. Banners and things falling through the sky, and you can imagine the buildings going back and forth like that. A hand coming out to slap you, and a horn coming out to honk, and bubbles. And just really nicely designed. Now it's nighttime, and everyone's yawning and sleeping. See, the traffic light is yawning, and that's yawning. Little more static. And here, I don't know what they are. They're a down shot of a village. Look at the simplified version of the houses here, and then a little less simplified from a distance, and more detailed close up, indicating the depth and the overlays that characters can come out from underneath. There's the drums that they pound on with stick, bo, 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 and there's the fire. More. The chief's hut. Here's a jungle camp. And you can see that they've got Coleman lanterns and chairs and water tank to get drinks out of, and a fireplace, and place in the back to sleep. Now here we're in a jungle cabin, and he's designed a chimney that has the outlet on the side. Now, we first looked at that and we said, why is the opening from the chimney on the side and not the top? Well, because this is a straw roof, and if it was on the top, there'd be the risk that the burning embers would fall back on top of the roof and set the whole building on fire. So if you have the exhaust on the side, it goes out to the side and it doesn't catch the roof on fire. He's thinking of every detail here. He understands how a thatched roof works. There's the interior of the same thing, and he knows the construction of how that dome is made out of twigs and straw. And there's the fireplace. Okay, now we're going to go through a series here of all over the world. and he's able to express all over the world. This is a jungle in Thailand. There is probably Cambodia, from the looks of it. Chinese temple. Tibetan monastery. In the Peruvian Machu Picchu. A Mayan temple. That's like Angkor Wat or somewhere like that in I guess that's Thailand. Inside the temple, and it's obviously the Mayan temple because we've got Mayan stuff up here. But he did all of those different cultures and put them across clearly every time. Here's a fissure in the ground with lava at the bottom or something and a rope bridge going over it. And look how back here it becomes undefined, but the directions of it are all that you need to indicate how the cave works over there. You don't really have to see all the detail when it goes over there. There's more detail here in the foreground, and there's detail around the center of focus of interest, which is this bridge. But when it gets out into the edges, you don't have to have quite so much detail anymore. So he keeps the attention focused on the center. Here's inside an ancient Egyptian temple. Again, he can express anything. A royal bedroom in Egypt from a prince. It's a kid. You can tell he's got toys on the ground. I don't know why he'd have mummy cases in his bedroom, but I guess he does. Cleopatra, statue of Cleopatra. Ancient Greece. Now, the research that's required to do this is formidable, but he's doing it effortlessly, and he's incorporating his research intelligently to keep a focus. Like here's a bas-relief that puts the idea of Greek temple across along with the columns without having to have a whole bunch of details. Very simple, and he keeps the focus on whatever this tablet is down there. That's obviously what the characters are looking to in the scene. Another tablet. This one again Egyptian, because we're seeing the lotus flowers and the Egyptian sort of patterns. Actually, it says Greek style. Well, I was wrong. That was Greek. A Grecian urn with Alexander the Great's portrait on it. Okay, now we're in Hopi territory. Mesas, Monument Valley. Now, look at how he renders rocks. A lot of time, people will do all kinds of details on rocks. He just worries about the forms, and he makes the forms pleasing and makes them feel, and he's indicated here, this line here shows the height of a man. That's what 6 feet would be in this, so you understand the scale. Again, beautifully rendered rocks. Western town. A Wild West cabin. And it's a set, so you kind of feel that it's a prop with a backdrop. It doesn't really feel like a real Wild West cabin. But now here we're in Pueblo Village. Again, the Hopis. And we've got a kiva over here from the outside. Now, he told me a little bit about this background. Ken Leonard did. He said that they had a lot of attention to detail in making sure that when they depicted a culture, they depicted it properly. The idea of a kiva is that during the Kachina celebration, they dress up as their gods. And the kiva is like the sacred place. And it's in a hole, you go down through a hole in the top of the building, down these steps. And you open this door over here, and that door over there is the door to the spirit world. And when it's opened, the spirit of the god comes in. Well, you get dressed, first of all, in your Kachina costume. There's a Kachina doll. You get dressed as the god. You open the door to the spirit world. The spirit comes in and enters you. You go up the stairs, and out in the village, the ceremony takes place, and you are the god, because the god is inhabiting you, the spirit. Then you come back down the steps again, and the spirit goes back into the secret door there, and you take off the costume, and when you go back out, you're just a normal person again. So he said that they were very attentive that all of these elements were all things that were authentic, and did a tremendous amount of research, because they wanted to make sure that even though all that information wasn't being put across by the cartoon itself, they were able to have it in the background. So if someone knew, they would look at it and they'd say that is actually the interior of a Hopi kiva. This is the bad guy's place where he's stolen all of the religious artifacts, and he's hiding them in his hideout. A Spanish galleon. Beautiful, simple but beautiful. There's on board the pirate ship. Totally functional. We've got several areas where action could be staged. Now we're in Alpine Village, and look at the angles. Look how everything has that. If you've ever seen photos of this kind of half-timbered house, if you look down a street, nothing is on a totally vertical right angle. Everything is at a slight angle wonky, and this depicts that perfectly. Almost feels like Pinocchio or something. Here we are in Transylvania. There's the Dracula's castle. And the villagers with the castle up on the hill. Castle courtyard. Oh, look what he's designing here. I mean, here's a medieval castle and a Robin Hood setup, obviously. The interior of the hallway in the castle, in the main hall. Give you a second to just look at that. Look at the pennants with the coats of arm up here, and how the ones in the front are a little more detailed, and then they get simpler as they go to the back, and how he's indicated a rose window up here in the lighting fixtures and the vaulted roof, the curve of the side walls with the coats of arms on them. Interior of chambers in the castle. Obviously, again, a kid lives here, a toy. The interior of a monastery study. Lighting indicated in all the books and the rolled up parchments. Fire in the fireplace. There's a reverse angle. There's the chair again. We're seeing it from the other side, and the door going out. Another door. This is the dungeon. Great texture. Now here's a movie set of a castle, and it's basically the same castle, but it's obviously cartoony and it's obviously fake. And he's able to draw the same thing and make it look in a different context now. Here's an abandoned town, looks like in Bavaria or something. That could be a concept drawing for a Universal horror film. That is absolutely beautiful. Drawings like that, oh man. This is now Frankenstein's castle, looking out of the window from his lab to the gates. And there's his lab. And for some reason he's got the table that Frankenstein is laying on, but he also has an electric chair. That's always useful. And again, the machine, everything on here works. We've got dials, we've got gears that turn, we've got electrodes that spark between each other, and some sort of a turbine here that powers it, and vacuum tubes and gauges. Everything here looks like a machine that actually works. Another view, down shot on the operating table. Now it's Jack and the Beanstalk, the Giant's Castle. And a house on the beanstalk. See the vine goes up through the floorboards of the house. And there's the interior shot with the vine coming up through the floor. Another shot of the kitchen. Seeing it's in a book. There's the Giant's room with it's again a kid's room. There's toys, there's a high chair there of some sort, shoes. Here's a tiny little bogus to show how big he is. There's his dinner table, and again, tiny little bogus right over here, and then all of the things around. Cartoony, wishing well in a little cartoony fairy tale house, and look at the roof on that. Look at how bent that is. It's just like right on the edge of, how far you can carry it and going too far. That's just absolutely perfect. Here's another fairy tale kind of cottage. Imagine the big bad wolf and grandma's living there. The old woman who lived in a shoe and the old man who lived in a cowboy boot. And the pretty young woman who lives in a high heel shoe over here. It's a good neighborhood. Rapunzel's tower, their hair hanging down and little bogus coming up, I'm sure. Red Riding Hood's forest. You can see the wolf hiding behind the trees as Red Riding Hood comes up the path. Just completely staged exactly what you need for that. Now this section here is science fiction. Part of Widget also involved science fiction, and outer space things. So here he's designing things that nobody has ever seen, which is kind of interesting, because then it kind of frees up his imagination to do things that might not be easy to just copy. He had to come up with it out of his head, and he does a great job. Look at the starbursts and the plasma and the planets. There's a constellation. Look at the rendering. I don't know if you can see that, but this is all rendered with lines. It's all very carefully placed lines. It's not shaded. It's actual cross-hatching. Deep space. That's the interdimensional fabric. If you ever wondered what interdimensional fabric looked like, that's it. Planet Alpha Drum. Look at this strange plasma thing going on over here. That's another solar system. Double Saturn and some sort of a Jupiter over here and weird space gas. Now here's a sequence. We start with planet Earth here. Weird powers start going around. Starts tearing the surface. Clouds form. It stretches out a little bit to one side, pulling on the, tearing at the planet. Planet starts to disintegrate. It's not even round anymore. Everything comes flying out in debris, little space junk, and then it completely disintegrates. That just says titanium. I don't know what it is. It's some sort of a ship or something, but it's detailed without being detailed, which is very odd. But if you look at it close, you can't quite discern the form of it. But you can discern light and shade, but not the form, because it's too complex for your head to wrap itself around, I guess. Planet Omega. Thernoglobulus. All these planets have names. And here's like an bogus cartoon. Here's like a cartoony version of space. And then back to widget with more realistic, like Saturn's rings. This is some sort of a radio signal being beamed into Earth. And there's meteorites falling out of the sky, landing on an alien planet. Some sort of a time travel effect. Isn't that beautiful? Look at the directionality of it. You know, how it goes in swirls, and the swirls feed back on themselves in a circle. It's like circles within circles. Planet Bunklavania. Here's a plaid planet. Now this is the sort of an idea that a writer might come up with that it's not fun to draw. It's a good idea on paper, but when you actually come to draw it, it becomes quite difficult. So this is a plaid planet. And now what does it look like if you're on top of the plaid planet? That's what the plaid looks like on the planet. He's figured it out. He made it work, even though it was a impossible task. He did it. Here's a lake on the plaid planet. Now here he's storyboarding out a little sequence with some sort of a projector that projects holographic images of the solar system, and it shows the Earth and the Sun and Mars and all of the planets, and then it shows a hole in the ozone layer, and we zoom in on that. And then we show the Arctic Ocean and icebergs breaking off and melting and drifting into the sea, which is happening this last week, actually. Polar ice cap, and then there's Polaris, the star Polaris in the distance. Now, I don't know whether you can see this clearly, but here is one of his roughs. See, there weren't many roughs in this batch, but they're very interesting to see. Here, this is a ice castle. His first try at it is kind of over detailed, but then he kind of, or his first try and it looks kind of like Disneyland Castle, and then he adds a little more detail to it and changes the form a bit, and then here's what it looks like when it's finished. Look at the beautiful clouds swirling around it and the directions. We've got this direction, we've got that direction, we've got this direction, we have this direction. All of these curves and in to the depth there. Here's his rough for inside the ice castle. And again, I hope you can see this. I'm not sure because it is kind of pale, but the basic layout here is exactly what he ends up with. He just changes some of the architectural details and adds detail to the textures and that sort of thing. This is a landscape on some alien planet. He's designing plants that don't exist and this thing in space. Alien planet terrain. There's another sort of a weird, almost like the creature from the Black Lagoon's claw. Moon craters. That looks a lot like Ivan Earl. Again, some more pre-board. Andes Mountains with Lake Titicaca. Some sort of a strange alien landscape with alien factories of some sort. That's pretty beautiful. Look at that. Some sort of a molten land in the landscape in the foreground with bubbles that have hardened like fried eggs kind of, and then in the background there's just this mist with the city revealed behind it. External sci-fi city. See, there's rocket ships going around like cars on a freeway. It's an asteroid with buildings on it. They're held on with some sort of a strap or something. This is a outer space mall, and you can see people walking to outer space department stores. It was the 90s. Science fiction movie set with a giant bogus robot about to destroy it. Here's some more thumbnail pre-board stuff to show board artists what sort of background details they could use in their scenes. Asteroid as it used to be with a pretty landscape, and then it's got malls all over it. There's a music store. A glass tunnel going away from the city into the wilderness. Another tunnel out of the city. Here's a pretty interesting alien landscape with some sort of weird deco sort of platform up above. Look at the plants in strata and in bubbles. The inside of a rocket ship control panel. Another view of the control console. And here's some 50s sci-fi on TV. Kind of the essence of cornball 50s science fiction. Now, one of the things that Nestor was really good at was trash. And I don't know why, but he's able to make trash look really beautiful. So here's an alleyway with a trash can and overflowing boxes and barrels of trash. A mountain of trash and an avalanche. Look at that. That would be great to see done in CG. I don't think it probably looked good in the widget show, but maybe it did. I don't know. That's beautiful design. Here is a sewer where a rat lives. All the trash and stuff that he's picked up and built his little lab out of it. There's an underground sewer tunnel. Another sewer tunnel, it says. That's what the title of this is. I guess he ran out of names for sewer tunnels because he had so many of them. Here's a maze of tunnels underground, and you can see how he's set up little environments that could be cuts of their own, you know, where a character could come out of this cave and come around here, or go around there, or come around this corner. Lots of areas for the to act as stages for the characters. Another underground tunnel with a cave. Another roots coming in through the top. It's like a gopher hole. Here the gopher has built some sort of a structure, probably a chair or a bed or something. Dead-end tracks in a cave, like a mine train sort of thing. Beach full of dinosaur bones. That's pretty interesting. Now here's the exit into the swamp from the sewer. So we had this whole other world underneath the ground. Volcanoes. Prehistoric jungles with strange plants that don't exist anymore. Underwater prehistoric creatures. This is a Mesozoic jungle. He's actually specifying what period of prehistoric time this is. Another Mesozoic background. This is a pterodactyl's nest. Look at the mist and the strange trees and the volcano in the distance. There's a close-up on the nest. And there's Bogus sitting on the egg. Now here we're in the Cenozoic era, and this is a cave that is home to Neanderthals. So the foliage is a little closer to our point of view. Our initiative is going very well, and we have a lot of plans for a lot more things for you. So if your support is greatly appreciated, and we are always trying to give back more to you than what your dues are paying for. So I hope you're happy with what we've been presenting, and I hope you found this interesting. And we're going to provide this to the members so that you can download it and keep it. So thank you very much for listening. I hope this wasn't too long. If so, just take it in parts. Thank you very much, and thanks to Benny Mercator for helping me here off scene as I'm passing drawings to him madly, and thanks to everybody. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. That's a lot of thanks. That's a lot of drawings. You think it recorded it all?
I'm excited to see it.
It says it's recording, so. Our time zone. He's exaggerating it a little bit here, making it kind of like Flintstones, but basic idea. There's a reverse angle on the same thing. Here is a prehistoric swamp. Unusual sorts of plants. And another sort of prehistoric swamp with these tendril things and these big flat leaves and these strange fruits. Almost like outer space underwater. So he's indicating the surface of the water here, and there's these strange, I guess they're, this looks like a banister on a stairway. This is some sort of wiggly thing, and curly cues, and like a fleur-de-lis. Another underwater scene in a lake. This is inside of a tank in an aquarium, like Marineland or one of the large aquariums. A shark tank is what this is, and they've got some seaweed and some rocks. And there's again, an underwater rock with a starfish on it. A sea kelp garden. Now, I don't know, I'm told that if you skin dive, this is what it looks like underneath. It's actually very, very accurate. This is Southern California. I've seen these wash up on the beach, but that's what it looks like when you're down underneath the ocean. This one's kind of interesting. This is a boat with a fishing line coming down, and it's lost its motor. And I think just as a joke, he's put this car in here underneath the water as a reference to Night of the Hunter. And if you've ever seen the movie Night of the Hunter, you'll get the joke with the fishing pole and the car off in the distance. If you haven't seen Night of the Hunter, I can't explain it to you. You have to see the movie. It's one of the best movies ever made, so it's worth watching. But obviously Nestor had seen it and was making a reference to it here. Here's a sunken cargo ship. And the interior of the shipwreck. You can feel the fact that it's underwater, that weird kind of where the ocean glows. Here's the research submarine, the pilot house, and there's the part of the sub where the guys in the aqua lungs get in, and then they shoot out through the top of the sub into the water. And there's a eel caught in a tank that they're saving as a specimen. Big gears and grates so the water flows off. Never a perfect circle, never a straight line. He always keeps it very organic. Even if it's mechanical, it's still got life to it. Now we're going to finish off with a couple things here that show you the depth of the research and the depth of the planning and design that Redondo would do when he was making these shows. Here he's got some sort of a circus, a floating circus platform. It floats on the ocean. This is like inflatable, and it floats on the ocean. And he's laid out the entire circus. There's the main tent. There's the place where the helicopters land. Here's the office tent. Those are searchlights. This is a shuttle landing area. Here's animal cages, a parking area. He's indicated what every part of this is. So there's the thing that indicates the overview of the plan of it, and there's the actual rendered out background. See the animal cages? So each one of these things, he's indicated what it is. There's where you pay for your tickets and go in. Here's an amusement park. He's designed that there's a merry-go-round, there's one of these outer space jets things, there's oh, I'm blanking. What do you call that, Benny? That's a roller coaster. Yeah. It's funny when my brain suddenly hits a brick wall on something. And you know, he's planned out all the parts. There's a ticket booth. Here is the rat and his show, I guess. There's an overview of it. It's on a pier with a shooting gallery and a merry-go-round and a Ferris wheel. There's the attraction posters with the hero widget. This is a bogus now, and this is a food vendor and with hot dogs and lemonade and popcorn and ice cream. Forced perspective. Here's a shooting gallery. Now I don't know whether you can see the detail here, but every single one of these characters is different. Everyone is designed, and everyone is doing something. So this is all animating, and they're shooting at it. Incredible design. I mean, way over the top, more than was needed or called for, but he did it, and it's great. That is a brilliant design. It'd be great to see that in CG. Here's a carousel with the horses, and the horses are all beautifully drawn and in perspective. He even understands how the structure of the tent above and the rotating part around the carousel works. This is a crafts tent with, I guess, knickknacks for sale. That's a funny one there. An ice cream cart and bumper cars. He's designed every part of this circus and carnival, every part of it. It's like he designed his own carnival. Here's a fun house from the exterior and the interior. A mechanical medieval dragon kind of audio animatronic thing. There's the exit from the ride with a waterfall coming down around the top. Magic World with a ride with big, I guess, weird undersea creatures displays with a silver shower as you come in and as you go out. There's a big glass tank with a character and a crocodile in it. Now here's a sea life park. This is like a marine land sort of thing. And again, he's designed every element of it. Here's the entrance with a giant whale statue. Here's a big clamshell arena where people sit. Here's a dolphin show and a shark show and some sort of a 4 points of the compass and a manta ray show. And then he goes in and shows each detail here. Here's the sharks, and here's the porpoises. There's the interior of the arena with the clamshell over the top. And there's the entrance gateway to the Sea Life Park. and the octopus tank. Well, that's the end for this show and tell. I hope you found it interesting, and if this all worked, I will upload part of it to public and the rest will go to members only. So I thank all the members of Animation Resources. You're the folks who paid for the equipment to do this show and tell today.